Hey, so this might be my last video of January. So in order to finish the 2010s/2019 throwback special, I was thinking about making a top 10 underrated albums of the 2010s. But I've already done 3 videos of this series in less of a month, so I'm waiting a little before doing a What JoJo again. So instead, I'll make the whole video dedicated to talk about not only the album, but about the band that made the album that would be the number 1 of my list, which is also the most underrated artist of the 2010s in my opinion. I'm talking about the Swedish blues rock band Blues Pills. If you are from Europe, more specifically Germany, you might already be familiar with this band, since they have a considerable fame there. But in the rest of the world, they don't seem to get as much love as they deserve. I've been listening to their music for about a year and a half, and since then my love for the band has only increased more and more. And now I'll share what makes their music so good to me. First of all, I feel like everyone that already knows Blues Pills will agree with me on this. But one of the main things that make their sound so good is the insanely powerful and beautiful vocals of lead singer Elin Larsen. She not only clearly have a really high range as proven by how high she screams in songs such as Time Is Now and Astral Plane, but she also really knows how to control her vocals to match the style of songs by them that have a really distinct structure, such as a straight up melancholic and moody I Felt a Change. In this song, at points her vocals sound depressed, in others sounds desperate, and even further can sound hopeless. Blame it on anyone, oh, I know, blame it on anyone. And in the follow-up in this album, Gone So Long, her vocal sounds angry, but not in a violent way, almost like taunting. But it's not only of a singer that a band is made. So now, it's time to talk a little about the sound of the other members of the band. The first one I'm going to talk about is Zach Anderson, the bassist. He has proven in various moments throughout the band's discography that he surely knows how to make memorable and groovy bass lines, even though he almost never receives the spotlight. In the few moments he does, like in songs such as Ain't No Change and Won't Go Back, he indeed makes sure that we are all paying attention to him. However, Anderson isn't the bassist anymore. He's now the guitarist. Since the band's former guitarist Dorian
Dorian Sorio,
that's how you say it, left the band in 2018. And now, as I said, Anderson is making the guitar duties, and there's a new bassist on the area, which I won't be able to reveal since I haven't seen him play yet. However, I will still talk about the band's previous guitarist, Dorian French name, it's easier to say that way, since everything the band has released so far features him as the guitarist. And well, despite being the band's youngest member, he truly knows how to make amazing sounding music. Even though guitar solos are kinda rare despite happening every now and then, his greatest performance has to be in all the songs from the Blaze EP, and in the tracks Black Smoke and Jupiter. His guitar flows almost like the wind in softer tracks, and in louder tracks, his playing gives us the feeling of something urgent and energetic. For the drums, the band has 2 members to talk about, the former drummer Corey Berry and the current, Andre Varnstrom. I think I said it right? Corey Berry's drum playing sadly kinda fades out in the middle of the songs he played, especially in the ones from their first LP. But if you pay attention to them, you can hear clearly that he knows what he's doing, especially in tracks such as Astral Plane and Bliss, where some of his most elaborate performances happen. Now for Andre, his drumming style is quite different of the more bluesy of Corey Berry. While the blues is still very present in his music, his drums apparently have a much higher focus in building an atmosphere to their music, making their sound much more epic and almost mystical, which is one of the partial reasons why the band's second studio album, Lady in Gold, sounds so different from their self-titled. Even though the band always had this mystical characteristic in their music, as proven by earlier songs such as River, in Lady in Gold this is much more present, and it's partially thanks to him. Now I'm going to talk about their discography, that's composed of 2 EPs and 2 LPs. Their third LP is coming this year, and I'm really excited for it. I know that the band has a lot of things that they've released throughout their career that I'm not mentioning, but that's because I'm deciding to only to focus in the most notable things that they have released And also, in this release I'm excluding, all there is are different versions of songs that already exist, such as Bliss and Black Smoke. So it would be kinda repetitive to talk about it. Their first notable release was the EP entitled Bliss, released in 2012. It has 4 songs, with the most notable ones being the title track and the final song, Little Sun, which is currently the band's most popular song on Spotify. This EP has a much more rustic sound compared to the band's future material. The mixing is alright, but the production is kinda weak. However, these details make their music legit sound like something that was released by a garage band in the early 70s. Not simply something that was recreating the sound. Ellen Larson's vocals also sound a lot more aggressive in this EP. I wouldn't say that they sound angry, but she clearly tried to explore a much more melodic sound in future releases. Her screams during songs can almost remind us of singers such as Joan Jett and Janis Joplin due to how wildly she drives her vocals. Their second EP, Devilman, has just a few changes in the band's style, but what really sets it apart from their previous EP is the fact that the production and mixing of this EP is 1,000 times better now. It's easy to compare, especially if you listen to the song Devilman, that's featured in both EPs. And comparing both versions, it's clear that the Devilman EP version is much more well produced.
You got money in your pocket, you got blackness in your soul. You got money in your pocket, you got blackness in your soul.
Ellen Larson's vocals in songs from this EP managed to get even louder. This time it's not as raspy and Janis Joplinish as in Bliss. Here her voice is much clearer and smooth, but in a much more extravagant performance, making her vocals remember us of Mariah Carey and even Aretha Franklin. For their self-titled LP, they've started a transition from their usual sound. While their blues/hard rock roots are still pretty vivid here, in this album it starts to appear and approach psychedelic music and even soul. One of the most notable examples of this album is the song River, which is among my favorite songs by the band. This album is also one of my favorites of 2014 for me, but it still has its flaws. The drums, despite being well done, are kinda too low in my point of view. It almost devalues the work of Corey Berry a little, and their cover of Gypsy is by far their weakest track. It almost sounds like a demo to me, but at least it's not a bad song. But if you ignore this track and consider only the other wonderful tracks of this album, this is undoubtedly an excellent album, that was far from being their big time. 2 years later, their second album, Lady in Gold, came out. Much more experimental and much better. All of the songs from this masterpiece of an album are simply perfect. The blues side of the band was lukewarm, but it was still present, especially in tracks such as You Gotta Try and Elements and Things. Here, their music was much more in the side of soul and psychedelic, something that they had previously built up in their self-titled debut. And to be honest, that only made the band have a much more original sound compared to their previous releases. I listened and re-listened to that album, and I'm still impressed by how well each instrument is played, by how well produced this album is, by how each song has its own identity, yet it still matches with the style of the others, and it's absolutely beautiful. This album plays with all my emotions at once, and it's honestly the reason I'm making this video. However, some people complained about the change of style of the band, saying that they preferred much more their old blues-focused sound, and the louder vocals and stuff, which I understand. This album is much less focused on vibrant guitar solos than the previous one, but I honestly have a really hard time trying to see where the hell they are saying that this album is disappointing or even underwhelming. Their sound is clearly evolving from a starting point that was the 60s and 70s blues rock sound, to something much more complex and much more of their own. Even though that kinda makes the name Blues Pills lose its meaning, it doesn't mean that the band's going in a bad direction. And also, their music still sounds like it's stuff from the 60s and 70s. To me, that's just a sign that the band is trying to evolve and become distinct among the sea of bands that have this classical sound. And to me, it's working amazingly. This may be my favorite album of 2010s. I even bought the physical copy of it, which is something I almost never do. I barely have money to buy a decent microphone, so I can't really waste money buying albums. But when I saw that on the store, it was practically an insta-buy. I love this album so much. So yeah, that was Blues Pills, the band I look forward the most in the modern rock music, and I am so eager to see what they'll bring to us in their third studio album. It may be similar to Lady in Gold, it may be an improvement on that sound, it may be something completely new, I don't know what to expect. I'm not even sure if I'm going to like it or not, but I'm not even sure if it's going to be their best, their worst, or an album in between, but my instinct says that it's going to be a great release. So yeah, make sure to check out Blue Spill's music. If you liked this video, be sure to like and subscribe to my channel, and ring the bell to get notifications. My name is Marshall, and see you next time.